Before we get started, Talk Music Talk has a newsletter, a weekly email featuring the current week's guests, plus what past guests are up to. Also, I'll tell you about shows I've attended and new music that I like. To sign up, head on over to talkmusictalk.com, click on the link, subscribe to newsletter, and you are all set. That's talkmusictalk.com. And now for today's episode. Hello there, my friend. Welcome to another episode of Talk Music Talk with Boyce. I am Boyce, and this is my podcast that you are listening to, episode 139. Talk Music Talk is a weekly music interview podcast where I have long-form conversations with people who are connected to music from different genres and different backgrounds, established and emerging singers, singer-songwriters, music therapists, music journalists. And on episode 139, I had the pleasure of speaking to Nick Pope, singer-songwriter, multi-instrumentalist. I first discovered his music last year on Bandcamp when he released a collection of his EPs as one volume, Souvenirs and Astronauts. He lives in Boston, but we did an interview, actually a first interview last year in December, and we were going to feature a song from it on the podcast from his forthcoming release, Howl and Flood. However, the date got pushed back and so much time had passed, and I thought, why not do a second interview? Because I'd like to hear about the new album. So I contacted him to find out when he would be back in New York. We did a second conversation, which you are going to hear, which this episode is about. He is an incredibly talented artist that everyone should hear. Just as thoughtful in conversation as he is in his music, we cover a lot of great things in this conversation. We talk about his songwriting process. We talk about themes in his music like loss and childhood. We discuss what inspires him. We also talk about the new album, Howl and Flood, and what it was like recording in a studio as opposed to his previous work, which was recorded in his bedroom. After the conversation, you will hear two songs from Nick, Something New and Something Old, Matter from Howl and Flood, and The Hours from Souvenirs and Astronauts, because we discuss it in detail. Two beautiful songs from an amazing artist. Here it is, without further ado, my conversation with Nick Pope. Enjoy. I did not listen to the other interview again.
The old interview.
Because I didn't want to reference something that wasn't released.
Sure.
So I don't remember anything.
Me neither.
Well, that's good, dude.
Yeah.
So we're like starting.
We can start fresh.
Semi-scratch. Or Yeah. Okay, cool. I'm excited, dude.
I'm glad that we're starting anew when I don't need to be anticipating something being released.
Okay.
And be unsure, because I'm sure now.
Okay. So what was that like when we interviewed the first time and you were unsure, or the album wasn't put together yet?
I forget what we were
This was
doing.
like November, December. Because when I interviewed you, we had talked about...
We just finished the Souvenirs and Astronauts, and then we were talking about the next one, right? Oh, yeah, some things just got in the way of releasing it. We were planning around a couple shows, really.
Yeah.
And that was really the main thing. Eventually, we planned a album release. Oh, we're live. We're going.
Yes.
So
I'm sorry.
let me step it up. Let me step up my game. We planned an album release show at Shea Stadium. And so that was all the big to do. And then
Shea closed.
They closed. So we did it in the backyard of my old house. And the cops came.
Oh, really? Okay.
But it was great.
Okay.
They came in the middle of the set, so we got to play the first half. It was a blast.
Okay. Where'd you do it at? Because you did it in Brooklyn.
Yep, we did it in Bed-Stuy at that house right next to Doe. And 1073. I won't give the full address.
Okay. But it's next to Doe.
That's true.
Doe Donuts.
That's right.
Which we were talking about before.
Were we not live yet?
I don't know. Donuts? I'm not sure where I'm going to edit.
Okay.
I'm going to edit from... People, I'm breaking the fourth wall. I'm going to edit from when I asked you about the album in last year.
Excellent.
Okay, when we met.
I feel like I was really...
Or do you want to start it now?
I feel like I was on fire then. So that's good.
Do you want to start now?
No, like I just said, I think I was cruising.
Okay, cool.
Well, you listen back.
We were in it.
Whatever's worth it.
Okay. So you've been in, when I did meet you, you had just moved from Brooklyn to Boston.
That's right.
Right. How long have you been in Boston now?
Somerville, almost a year.
Okay. And how's it been going there?
I love it.
Why'd you move?
It's my old town. Not really. Close to my old town.
Okay.
But it's the old air. And, well, my girlfriend was going to school.
Okay.
There. Still is going to school there. Graduate school.
Uh-huh.
And, yeah, I don't know. Things just kind of fell that way.
Okay.
And they fell in a great way. And I'm a very happy camper.
Okay. So things are going well with the...
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
just playing, working, playing.
Do you feel like what is the music scene there? Do you feel like you're missing out on anything?
I'm trying to get
I'm
trying to get a little more involved in the music scene.
Mm-hmm.
I do have a lot of friends that play. I play with some of them. Oh yeah, that's sort of the new chapter here is I'm playing with a band now.
Okay.
I'd been talking about getting a band together or something. And I've got a band of a bunch of homies.
Yeah.
And they are all in their own bands too. And so I've got to see some of the scene through them. But I'm looking forward to delving deeper into the scene, getting to a couple basements, etc.
Yeah. Do they have the whole DIY scene there?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not familiar with it.
Well, I'm not actually either. I've heard about it.
Okay. So you will know.
I hope so.
Okay.
Again, with the anticipation. Yeah. I do plan to.
Okay. So with the band, is that people from the Odd Gift Collective?
Yes, one of them. Mm-hmm. And the other is a good friend from college. Well, two good friends from college, but they're a couple. And also, so I was playing with this woman, Nora Murphy, and she has a brother named Devin Murphy, and he plays bass and all the other instruments, but he's playing bass in this outfit. And her boyfriend, Benjamin Silverman, is playing guitar and auxiliary, etc., keys and percussion, and so it's kind of fun to have the family band. Yeah, even though it's not my family, I feel like it is my family now. But
when you're on stage,
they're a whole crew.
Yeah,
so that was fun to tap into their own chemistry.
But on your album, you're playing all the instruments.
That's right.
Okay, so what were you looking for with a band?
I want to play live.
That you couldn't get.
Did a couple solo sets. And that's cool, and I had a loop pedal. But, and I also played with a trio, and then 4 or 5 people in New York before I left. But I was playing guitar and singing, and I'm still figuring out how to play good shows. And in this new outfit, I'm playing drums and singing. And so that was sort of part of it. I wanted to play drums and sing, and so it's a little harder to do that by yourself. And also, a lot of my music is harmony and melody driven, I feel like. And so it really added a new dimension, or really highlighted that dimension of the music when I got to sing with Nora. That was sort of the first step into playing with the band. We did some shows as a duo, and then we brought in the other homies. Eric Calderoni also is playing guitar, which is a blessing. Yeah. Love you, Eric.
Why drums did you choose to be the instrument you sing and play as opposed to, say, guitar?
I started on drums.
Okay.
So I got drums in my bones and my blood and in my skin. My skins, playing the skins. And, I don't know. It's weird. Like, you always, at any given moment, trying to manifest the music as best as possible, like doing it whatever way works the best with the resources you have. And I've, finding a new drummer and finding new people to play with has always been sort of a daunting task, especially drums, because that's like where I started. So that's sort of where I have the most critique and most to critique. And yeah, it just kind of, I was like up all night one night and thinking about this show that was in 2 months. It was going to be this release show. And I was just like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know how I'm going to find this drummer, and then I'm going to get this other stuff, etc. And it just clicked all of a sudden that my buddy Eric, I realized I could teach him the guitar parts, and then I could play drums and sing. And it just sort of like, all of a sudden, it made sense. And not just because I thought it would sound good, but because it was doable and like accomplishable in that time. And then adding Devin and Ben was also like, that snapped into position too when Nora mentioned they were interested, and I was like, this could work. Let's do it. And also the reason I love playing drums and singing is because I feel like they, for me at least, help each other out. It's just sort of a fifth limb, if you will, when you're playing drums, and they keep each other in check. Like, as the vocalist, I need a beat, a simple beat to sing to that doesn't rush and doesn't drag. And so it kind of like inherently supports the time. Which is kind of excellent, like when it's on. And it goes both ways. And like being able to play drums kind of eases the pressure of singing almost. Because singing was later for me, and it's always been kind of a struggle to like figure that out. It's been like one of the harder instruments to get better at. And so I find that playing drums helps with my singing. But that being said too, there's a lot of energy when you play drums, and it can be tough to hit some of the more delicate or falsetto moments. So anyway, it's been a learning experience, and I love practicing with everybody and like figuring all that out. So it's been cool.
So are you need to get a comfort level with the voice, or is a skill set thing?
Man, I don't know. Like I don't practice singing per se, and I don't really do good warm-ups like you should. And I mean, I sing a lot, which I guess you could consider practicing singing, but I don't know. It's just always been like I want to have a stronger vocal, and I want it to be more on pitch, and I want it to be more consistent with the way it sounds when I practice, etc. And I just always find whenever I go back and listen to like a live anything, I'm always pretty discouraged. And same with my drumming too. I always am pretty discouraged by whenever I slow down or speed up or do something stupid, like just some stupid fill or just anything really. I'm just highly sensitive to that specifically, and my voice. Like when I play guitar, I'm pretty feel pretty good about it. Maybe I'm just better at guitar than those things, but it's tough to tell.
Well, is it more challenging drumming than singing as opposed to... It seems like that just for someone on the outside looking in, that it would be more difficult than playing guitar.
It's weird. I mean, like I said, like when you're playing drums, you have these four things going on, and of course it's like a much different limb. But it is just like another thing to do, so it's not a huge shift. It's not like a huge it hasn't been tough to incorporate it immediately. What I struggle with is just like still nailing the vocal. But I don't feel that my drumming is like gets worse because of it. I don't think, but I can't be sure. Really, it almost allows you to focus and like relax. So you have like these two things you're balancing. It's kind of like five things you're balancing, it almost like takes the pressure off of either one and allows you to kind of meditate with both and balance them all out and kind of step away and like let it all happen.
Because you can't think about anything else in that moment.
Well, it's weird because it's like, it's really not unlike playing one instrument, or it's just doing a thing. And once you like do that enough, you go out there and you do it, and you're either good at that or you need to practice.
So with drums being your first instrument, when you write songs, do you start with melody or do you start with the rhythms?
No, that's like, it's strange. So much of my recording has been electronic drums, mainly because, like I said, it's like tough to record acoustic drums. But I focus like a lot on my guitar. Everything usually starts with my acoustic guitar. Like I just play that so often throughout the day, singing, playing, thinking of melodies. Granted, I do have a fair amount of pieces that have come from more conceptual approaches with rhythm or melody and on the piano or with the drums, but like the large majority comes from a melody coming into my head and matching some chords to it, or just fooling around on the guitar and landing on something and then putting everything to it.
Okay.
I usually just hop on GarageBand immediately
before you lose it.
Add some like simple electronic drum beat, because they usually have like a pretty simple like groove. Throw that down and then flip on my computer speakers on GarageBand and just like play some acoustic guitar over it, record a vocal, and then there it is for a little while at least. That's sort of my main process.
Okay. And at what point does the lyrical idea come in for the song?
Lately, I think I've been thinking something's like popped into my head, or I've just like had a new perspective on something, or some random thing happens. Like I'm watching a video or a movie or listening to something, and a thought is kind of, some other thought is like crystallized in a way where all of a sudden like you just see like this kind of sentence laid out. Yeah. And you're like, oh, I like that. And then you craft a chord behind it or something, or some little progression. And I don't know. That's not really a good description. I
First
like,
thought, best thought, and then revise later.
Yeah, that's. I'm just like, most recently I've had all these songs coming from childhood, and like for instance, I saw the new Power Rangers trailer, or I guess that was a little while ago, but that came out, and I saw that, and so it was sitting in my head, and like after that, I was just thinking about how much I watched Power Rangers as a kid, and how I didn't read comic books, and then that turned into a lyric, and I was listening to this Blake Mills song, Winter Song, and there's that long outro, and I just kept singing like this. I didn't read comic books, I watched Power Rangers lyric. Yeah. And just kind of get in the groove. And then that just opened the door into reaching back into all of childhood nostalgic nouns and pronouns. And proper nouns, and piecing together a picture of that time. So sometimes it just happens that way, where there's just a spark and you want to follow it. Yeah. That's really all it is. There's sparks all the time. It's nice to be in a mind state where you're willing to see it and be like, boom, oh, I like that. Yeah. That's all being an artist is. It's like noticing things and being intrigued and then following them. Look at me just wrapping up what an artist is. Simple as that.
Someone has to do it.
That's what it is, folks. Write that down.
We're done. That's it, dude. Yeah. The definitive
free
definition
of
an artist.
Free of charge. Yeah.
So does that account for you're very productive?
What?
Does that account for your, like, those ideas? Like, you're very productive because you had...
put out a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Or is it just so passionate?
A lot of them are just like, yeah, boom, you have a thought and you're interested in it and you go run after it. And then a lot of them, I think about this a lot, are reaching back into a memory, into a moment in the past, and meditating on that moment and observing things from that moment and using those observations to describe that feeling, those feelings, all those feelings, everything that contributed to those feelings. Not that you explain everything that contributes to those feelings, but I've been intrigued by any sort of rich moment in the past, whether it was like a brutal moment or a tragic moment or a glorious moment. And sometimes those moments slip by. You don't really sink your teeth into them while they're happening. But we've all had so many of those moments, I think, and sometimes you can forget about them, but you can also remember them, and sometimes it's worth going back and sinking your teeth in. Sometimes that means playing a chord progression you've been playing forever. So many musicians have these chord progressions they play, and they don't know why they keep playing them, and keep playing them and playing them for years. And maybe you try to write a song over it, but someday you play that chord progression for half an hour, 4 chords over and over again, and you literally just sit there and think and remember a moment. Not a random moment, but I feel like those chords will reveal why you've been playing them to you if you stick with them for long enough. And then once you get to that point, you can really just look around and just spew out description of what is around you and what's going on. And there's no need to sum it up if you give a truthful description of that place and time. And I find that those are the lyrics, when I can capture them, shine the brightest. Yeah.
How do you keep yourself honest and open when you're writing?
Quick. You gotta be quick, in and out. And I know I just said sit and play those chords for 20 minutes. Yeah. But even then, you do it, but there are these in and out things, like you have that thought, and first thought, best thought in a way. And sometimes you gotta like smack yourself, and it's like when you rub your eyes and you relook at something to get that first impression again. Yeah. And so sometimes you have to do that with your brain piece, and hit yourself in the head and be like, I need to get back to that first thing, that first taste, that first scent of that idea. And it's harder to lie to yourself unless it's really ingrained. But if you stick with something for a long time, it's easy to it can morph into something that's not really what you're trying to say, or not really what you experienced. And people are way more interested in an accurate and honest description of yourself. People don't want to be pandered to about beauty and drama. I don't think.
Yeah. I don't think so, no. They're listening to a hot FM station. I don't think they care.
No. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, even but no, I guess a lot of that radio is pretty, it can be bad, but there's a lot of simple things. There's just so many simple things. I think it's mainly a lot of people think so big. And this is like me. I still struggle with this sometimes. And certainly when I was younger writing music, I want to do these big, massive ideas and like convince people of the immensity of my, I think immensity is not a word. Whatever, the grandeur of my thoughts and ideas and my soul and my being and everything about me. And it's just so easy to lose that. It's such a huge thing to try and do, and you usually like shoot too big and then nothing really gets across. But sometimes in just describing your relationship with any tiny simple thing can be much more illuminating of who you really are.
Yeah.
Or what you have to offer, or like a bit of your character. And I think people take their character for granted, and in so many instances throughout the day, it's like your character is revealed through your, like, the way you actually feel about little things. And sometimes just describing the way you feel about these little things is a really like fun and interesting way to hear about somebody instead of trying to do something big. And I mean, whatever, people want to do some huge grand thing, like, power to them.
Yeah.
I've just found I'm more comfortable and I feel more like successful with these little glimpses that I think end up casting a larger shadow.
Yeah, okay. Because I think people can feel too when someone's like, look how smart I am in a song, like you're showing off, like, look at all these things I can do. And that can be a barrier between the listener and the artist.
Right.
When you can just pare that down and get that same thought across.
Right. Maybe, just more streamlined.
Yeah.
People just want the goods. Just give them the goods, boys.
Yeah. Do you find yourself, are there themes that you keep coming back to?
Most recently, it's been sort of childhood, like things, been reaching back to my hometown and things I did when I was like a bumpkin, just bumping into walls and stuff.
Yeah.
But also, even just now, I also have a sort of a song, some stuff I'm working on that's a little bit more in that simple description of even present day stuff.
Yeah.
But I still find that there's a similarity between the way I'm describing my childhood and also the way I'm describing my adulthood right now. And yeah, that's sort of just written a couple songs that are, I don't know why I keep wanting to say simple. It's kind of a boring word, but
spare.
I think they're just fun. I honestly like. It's just I think they're relatable without being, tired out and just like derivative. I just learned that as a way to describe music. But I think people just have fun, like hearing about things they relate to, and it's accessible, but it's not boring, I don't think. And I'm just having a blast, like recounting these things, like describing your friendships, and through like things you do is like, I just get a kick out of it, and I hope other people enjoy hearing about them too. Especially because a lot of people who are involved in those relationships will hear about them in the song. I think that's fun.
Because we often don't tell people directly.
Yeah, you really just like
they mean,
sit back and
feel.
It's kind of like looking at photos, There's a little bit of narrative. But yeah, then randomly, like it's funny. Like at once, I'll have something that's a little darker come through. I thought a song that's more about loss, which is definitely another huge theme of mine, is like loss and the fear of loss and the effect of loss, and sometimes something just you watch some scene in a movie or something, and like some lyric comes to you that's just very ripe with your feelings about something you've gone through, and you just gotta like run to your guitar and get it out.
What kind of loss do you mean?
I mean, essentially losing people you love. I lost my mom when I was 19.
Okay.
It's actually what that song "The Hour" is all about. And a lot of my music touches us on that experience. And like I was describing earlier, you know, that song "The Hour" is maybe one of the earlier examples of when I was writing lyrics like that. I had been playing those chords like since she passed away, and I didn't have a song yet, and there were a lot of fruitless nights like writing lyrics to it. And then it wasn't until some night in my apartment alone with my dog, just like playing those chords over and over again, and I was just thinking about her and about this one moment in particular that we shared toward the end that was kind of like a turning point. Of like letting someone go and accepting that, you know, fighting a disease, like making that decision to like stop fighting a disease.
Okay.
And anyway, of course, you can imagine that kind of moment is a tough one. And it really is just a moment. There's really just that one moment, right, when everything changes, right, when you've decided, like, why are we doing this? Anyway, that song looks back into that moment and everything surrounding it. And so that experience shaped a lot of how I approach lyric writing. Because it was so sort of monumental for me. Yeah. Because I felt like I was writing lyrics that I like really believed, and I felt like told a story I wanted to tell. And I thought other people could feel that with me. And so, yeah, I mean, I think about that a lot. If I think about, you know, having like that happen, you think about your family and the people you love, and my girlfriend and my dog. I have a song about her, my dog. Losing that, it just gets in your head, and I'm like ever grateful because of that experience. And I don't think it weighs me down, but I also, I don't know if I want to say like I enjoy thinking about it.
Her passing, or that song?
No, just like imagining my losing my girlfriend, or my father, or a sibling. Okay, it's kind of I don't know. And that those can spring on you in a moment of just like really imagining a loss, and then immediately like followed by like this new wave of gratefulness to have these things you do have. Anyway, those moments are like pretty rich, and I think there's a lot to unpack. And so I often like turn to those to sing about.
Yeah. No, I get that. There's a relative of mine. We're really close. And like, I don't know why I thought of that too, but like it was where if I lost her, like what that made me feel like, oh God, that would be horrible to lose her, which made me even feel more love for her. Right. Because she's fine, but you know, even the thought of it, and you're like, oh, that I know how much she means to me. Right. Yeah.
And like as moments go throughout the day, if you have like a big one of those, it's of the more intense moments I feel throughout a normal day. So like whenever you get hit by one of those, I'm always like pretty interested in like thinking about more about it and singing about it. I'm always playing that damn guitar. Yeah.
Because it kind of wakes you up in that moment. Because otherwise, like if you get off the phone with someone, you know, you're like, hey, talk to you later.
Exactly.
Believing you will talk to them later.
I think about that all the time now.
And you may not talk to them later.
No, really. So, I like what that's done to me.
Yeah. So that was that song was sort of like a turning of the corner.
Well, that song was, just the way it happened, and then I found this like a sort of a process, and it's sort of that like quick, like in and out situation again, where I think I was just learning about like, don't like dwell on trying to write this thing, like what would be this and what would be that. But if you can just like get your head back in that moment and just like go in, tap out, like get what you can, look around, like take what's real. If you can like and write it down, just sing it. Like also just singing, just freestyling essentially, just improvising and just describing things and like letting a certain description like fall in time with like the chords you're playing, and something's going to fit, and all of a sudden you're going to repeat it because it made sense that first time, and you're not getting stuck on things that like seem good or you think could turn into something good, and really trying to stay with the moment, and things will fall into place if you can really stay there, because that's a huge obstacle I found it in lyric writing and really in life in general, is when you get like a taste of something good and you don't want to lose that thing, and you got to stick with it, and like, oh, I gotta keep making sure, I gotta make sure this like breathes and lives, and I gotta blah blah blah, but you end up like suffocating it because you've detached yourself from like what got you there in the first place. If you can really stick with that initial inspiration, which is such a hard thing to do. I mean, it's kind of like the whole, if you love something, let it go. Like stay in that moment, stay with the moment, and go deeper. And like the artifacts you take away will just be like richer and brighter, I think.
Cool, dude. And even without knowing what the song is about, I could feel an emotional core content to it. So I think you've achieved. It's a really beautiful song.
I'm glad you like it.
Yeah. So let's talk about the new album, Howl and Flood.
Howl and Flood.
8 songs. Great. Another great album.
Thank you so much.
Sure. And was this the 8 songs? You whittled it down to these 8 songs? Why these 8 songs?
I was moving from New York. I wasn't planning on making an album. My good friend Kyle Joseph, who co-produced and mixed and recorded the whole thing, convinced me to make an album before I left. He wanted to like do something with me, do a project with me.
Why were you not thinking of making an album?
Just had a lot of other stuff on my mind, and I was going to eventually like make an album. But he was like, let's do this together in my studio before you go. So literally like the last 5 days that I was in New York, I was recording this album. All the drums, vocals, bass, guitar, piano, all day, like 5 days. And we just recorded like almost, we got like 12 songs that we went into it planning to record, and we recorded all 12. And then it was kind of a harrowing process after that, figuring out like which ones we actually got what we were looking for, and so we ended up whittling it down to those 8. We felt like that made a nice package. I'll release the other ones at some point, but it's not that I didn't like the way they came out per se. It's just sometimes you want to make this one thing, this one compilation as strong as it can be, and I felt like that was the story I wanted to tell.
Was it intentional, like with the previous album, which was a collection of your EPs over a year?
Well, it was over like freaking 3.5 years.
Okay, so it was like 5, 6 EPs altogether. And so there was like many different sound styles, and this one is more like of a piece.
Literally the opposite. It was like, instead of 4 years and like a ton of different equipment and random days, I mean, this was like 5 days in the studio, all live, all live drums. And like, it was the most vocal heavy thing I've ever done. And, so it was a whole new experience, and it was a blast to try it out. It was also new for me to sing with an engineer in the room. Really, like I'm always doing it by myself, but have a great relationship with Kyle. So, and he was unbelievable to work with in that regard. In other regards, he was absolutely horrible. Yeah. I'm joking.
Which will remain unnamed. He knows.
It's always great to work with Kyle. But I was specifically surprised, only more on my side, that he made the process so easy, and also I think he really like enhanced the final product. Being able to work with him with the vocals, and he just helped me. He just facilitated getting the best takes, and so I'm grateful for that. Yeah. That was a blast.
What are some things he said to get the best vocals out of you?
Well, I think he just did. He had a good balance of like letting me warm up, do a couple takes, staying out of the way, feeling when I was sort of getting stagnant or like losing energy, and lending opinions about, sections that are working, maybe this section we could do this kind of thing. Never like talking for too long or asking ridiculous things. But mainly it was just like, I never felt like he was in the way. I felt like when I wanted to sing, he was quiet. And when I felt like I needed something, he was already like giving me a suggestion.
Yeah.
So, kudos, buddy.
Yeah. And what was that adjustment like for you to go from recording in your bedroom where you can record anytime you want under your guidelines, and then to go into a studio with somebody producing you?
Well, it's cool. I mean, it forces you to be a little bit more performative. Like you got to sing out a little more, and you end up getting, in a way, I think like you get stronger takes. My vocal takes are some of like my strongest in a way. But of course you also lose sort of like those intimate corners of the bedroom recording where like random ass shit is happening and like weird sounds. You're like close to the mic, you're far away from the mic, and it's just weird. It's just everything feels like you're under a blanket, and it's all this strange improvised things and cutting and pasting, and like just it's messier, and there's like a beauty in the mess that I do miss. Like I love doing those home recordings, but I've done a lot of those, so it was really fun to do it the quote unquote right way.
Yeah. And
the old traditional.
Yeah. So this is does this album have the themes that you talked about earlier, childhood and loss?
Not so much the childhood. All the childhood, that's kind of like that's the next album.
Okay.
It has this a little bit different of a vibe. And I'm really stoked about it. And it's a lot of fun to play. And this past album it's really like it sings a lot about my relationship and with my girlfriend, Nicole. So,
hey, Nicole.
And sort of our life and our journeys together as roommates, and the moving and distance and breakups and togetherness, and our dog and responsibilities, and long nights and taxi drives and cocktails and pizza and just like a lot of stuff. Because she moved to Boston a year before I did, so I was still living in New York, and I definitely wrote a lot of this material like around that all that time, the time preceding her moving, the time dealing with that, the time figuring out if I was going to move to Boston and deciding I was going to move to Boston, and dealing with a frickin' violent.
You can curse on a podcast.
A dog that like bit my friend's face off. Like that's not cool. So that's where that album really comes from.
And how did you come up with the cohesive sound for this album?
Cohesive? Yes. Thank you.
Sure.
Well, I think Kyle Joseph would be happy to hear that. We were trying to keep we're trying to do it this time, you know, and it inevitably, inherently, with doing it in 5 days with all the same instruments and stuff, and same mixer and producer and master, it's like it's gonna have some of that. And they're all my songs. Yeah, I wrote all of them and played all of them. So there's a lot in our court for getting it cohesive. Yeah. But yeah, it took a long time to figure out the sequencing and which songs we're going to include. And I think I'm happy with what we got eventually.
Yeah. Cool. Great job.
Yeah, thank you.
And plans? What are your upcoming plans, dude?
We've got shows. We're just practicing, just getting better.
Yeah.
And got a bunch of new songs. We've got trying to book some shows this summer. I'm going to a bunch of weddings this summer, which I'm excited about. But you
going to play at the weddings?
Probably not going to play at the weddings. We got to show up in September at O'Brien's. But I really want to like play someone's basement. So, hey, what's up? If anybody's out there?
Yeah. Basement tour. Basement tour.
Yeah.
And best place for people to keep up with you online, get the albums?
Nick Pope on Spotify.
Okay.
You can throw it on a playlist.
Yeah.
You can follow me. Well, I don't even know what that means. But you can do it. But honestly, yeah, just give it a listen. And then also Bandcamp if you want to purchase it, if you want to support. That's great too.
Yeah. And you should get Souvenirs and Astronauts, the previous release.
22 tracks.
Yes. And they're all good. And the new one, Howl and Flood.
That's right.
Yeah. Did I leave anything out, Nick?
I don't think so, boys.
This was wonderful.
Yeah, you guys should see where we are right now.
We're in a friend's lovely craniosacral office. Google it.
Google it.
Yeah. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you, boys.
This was a pleasure.
The pleasure was all mine.
Okay.
Trying to settle my head, trying to hold on to the moment I'm at. I consider my life instead and fall out. Just again. wanna sit up and speak, but you're tied down. And so the weight is on me. Yeah, it's mine now. Yeah, it's mine now. I'm in the middle of three. I couldn't lie down. And so I pull up my sleeves and I cried out. Since I saw you there, in that moment, there's no turning back. And with all that's needless to say, it's all wrong any other way. And it's a bitter relief, but we're tired out. Yeah, hit up release. Been a while now since I saw you there. In that moment, there's no turning back. And with all that's needless to say, it's all wrong any other way. I can be the one you don't have to say. I can tell you done. I can be the way. Come on, I can tell you don't have to say. You don't have to say. Counting on the hours, you don't have to stay. I can tell you're done. Counting on the hours, you don't have to stay.
And there you have it, too, from Nick Pope. That was The Hours from last year's Souvenirs and Astronauts. And before that, Matter from the new Howl and Flood. Both albums are released through the collective that he is a part of, Odd Gift. And you can go to their website at oddgiftrecords.com and pick up Nick's album, both of them, on Bandcamp at nickpope.bandcamp.com. You can get them as digital downloads, and I suggest that you get both. I am online several places, several ways, talkmusictalk.com for more podcast information and to stream every single episode. Also, I have a personal website, which is thisisboyce.com. You can read excerpts from the novels that I have written and also check out my music. And if you are on Instagram, please follow me there at thisisboyce. And a call to action for you. A few things, actually. If you enjoyed this episode with Nick, please share it on social media, maybe email it to a friend, or leave a 5-star rating and or review on iTunes to help grow the Talk Music Talk audience. Also, there is an app. You can download the Talk Music Talk app wherever you like to get apps, or you can subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Google Play, and a host of other places. And I have a back catalog suggestion for you. If you enjoyed the music of Nick Pope, I suggest episode 138, the previous episode with Bo Borg, another equally amazing singer, songwriter, artist. And you will hear 2 songs from Bo on that episode. That's episode 138 with Bo Borg. Thank you so much for listening. Till next time, and there will be a next time. This one's for you, Liz.